All right. Should be live now on both platforms. All right. Happy to be back. Happy to get in and do another market wrap, get back involved. The market been out the last week. And kind of interesting day to get started and get back into things. Let's go ahead and start. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for July 13th, 2021. Qs. Looks like we're going to close basically unchanged. Is that right? And then SPY is going to be down a little bit. So today's price action from the open doesn't really tell the whole story because the market was up. And then CPI numbers came out, and then the market dropped. Market recovered, and then here into the afternoon, got a sell-off here. So a lot more volatile of a day that isn't even completely conveyed in the chart, the kind of intraday chart. But a lot of back and forth and a lot of volatility. So pretty interesting stuff. So we'll break it down with each index. Okay, we'll go index by index, and then we'll go over today's plays. Okay, let's start with the Qs here. All right, Qs, clear uptrend on the daily. Nothing's really changed. It's remained bullish for the last couple weeks. Okay, and then looking at the hourly here, we've gotten a pullback back to support. Okay, so for the Qs, a bit more neutral. We're still in uptrend, but this is a deep pullback. If we break underneath today's low, we're going to be watching for the continuation. Okay, if we get continuation, then the next sell setup, the next breakdown will be the start of the bearish bias. Okay, why do I want to see continuation? Because as you can see, previous attempts, right, to fail on new highs, right, new high and then try to drop, or new high and then try to drop, or new high and then try to drop, have not continued. They might get a little bit of follow through here, right, to start the move back to the 20 MA, and then that has held, right? In this case, we got a gap down, but then that got bought. Okay, so the continuation to the reversal event, right? So this is a bit of a reversal, kind of a little pivot form there and tried to roll over. The gap here got sold. And so the reversal is there, but we just need the continuation, right? And you can see it too on the daily. Big topping tail, right? It's typically going to be bearish, right? And so will there be continuation to this, right? If we do get that, the next hourly breakdown, hourly sell setup is bearish for the Qs. Okay, SPY, all right, pull back to a rising 20 MA. SPY is the least bearish, I think, for today's price action. We still have a pretty decent looking uptrend here on the SPY, and it's a pullback to support, but not as deep of a pullback as the Qs relative to the trend that we have going on. So hard to be bearish on the SPY right going into tomorrow, even if we get a little bit of follow through underneath today's low for the SPY. Okay, so SPY really still looking bullish for me on the SPY here. And then IWM actually bearish already. Notice underneath the 20 MA on the hourly and the daily 20 MA already pointing down. We produced a lower high here. So interesting, right? Q is a little bit more neutral, SPY still bullish, and then IWM is bearish. Okay, we've seen divergence quite a bit the last couple weeks, but that continued divergence has really started to separate the larger time frames now. So the IWM actually turning bearish on the daily, where you can see the Qs and the SPY really are still in uptrends, right? So that's where kind of the most pronounced divergence, and that's where the kind of continued divergence has led to us actually having a different bias across them. Whereas previously we were seeing, maybe SPY was the strongest on one day, but then everything still looked bullish, right? All three still were looking bullish. And going back to the IWM here, right, it was when kind of that divergence was still going on. Now we saw kind of retest support and produce a lower high. Now that IWM weakness is really starting to show up here on the larger time frames. Okay, So it'll be interesting to see how that resolves going into tomorrow, because in the past couple weeks the divergence has really changed our bias, but now these actually are looking much more different. Okay, between the IWM Qs and the SPY. SPY a little bit more similar. IWM definitely acting different. Okay, all right. Let's go over the plays from today. First, I'll start with the NOK. NOK had a gap up, a little bit too big on the gap up, I think, but I thought it was worth a shot. It could have been played at the open as a 2-minute high-low is okay. I played it as a 1-minute pullback here. Okay, I got like that bottoming tail, turned into a base. So over this, basically right here, this pivot. Okay, it triggered and then couldn't follow through. Probably could have killed it a little bit early, but it was such a tight stop already that I just let it play out and didn't work. Okay, on the NOK. Ended up closing still kind of as a bullish bar here, and given what the market did, right, still held up okay, just didn't go at the time that I played it, and overall didn't really go that much. Okay, we played it on this day too, and I think maybe this day or this day. So last couple times it's been pretty good. I got what I wanted to see as far as volume at the open. You know, today being a significant day, likely to be a wider range than your average bar. So that was fine. Just didn't follow through. Okay, on the NOK. Then the next play should have been the VELA. VELA was pretty good. Okay. Quick pullback there and a 1, 2, 3. Just moved a little bit too fast for me to catch it. So I did play the verb, which is very similar in the setup. Here's the daily. You see the daily after that gap up and consolidation was clearing it. XELA doing the same. Unfortunately, the verb did not follow through nearly as well, right? And that makes sense. You might question sometimes why. Is it easy to miss the good ones and get in the ones that don't work quite as well? Because, the ones that are really working, the ones that are really moving, are really moving. So it's a lot harder to catch. So you can see, so this, instead of doing a pullback, right, at the time that the XELA was doing it, actually set up a base. So there was enough time to get it. So I think I had my order in by this point and then didn't trigger over 50 until minutes later. Unlike the XELA, which as soon as I see the setup, it triggers. There's no secondary entry, and then it does a 1, 2, 3. But you can see as soon as it finishes the 1, 2, 3, turns to a bottoming tail, and then shoots up. Okay, so it was hard to catch, and that's because
hey guys, good afternoon.
Sound places check. To be. Hang on one second. All right, so yeah, so the verb was okay. It didn't make much. I did have to live through this pullback. Got to a target, and then eventually trailed out off of this pivot. So not a huge play there. And then neither was the TME. Okay, TME, we got a gap up here. A lot of the Chinese ADRs were gapping up, but I thought because of the daily chart, the extension, leaving behind this bar, something a little bit different perhaps on this TME may lead it to give us a little bit more follow through, just that base breakout. See the 5-minute curling up underneath, and then 15-minute, sort of like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, did get a target one, and then the back half also trailed. So, some okay follow through initially to some of these plays. Nothing especially big except for the XELA, and so sometimes when this is the situation, and we didn't have a good gaps list really to start with, right? You kind of look at these and it's tough to not catch them and miss out on them. But it's also kind of telling you, that's the environment, that it's not a lot to do. So just like I reminded the room at the end of the day, if you did well today, really good job. If if you thought it was really boring, there weren't a lot of things to do, then the thing you want to make sure is just not to overtrade. Okay, so because it's especially easy, like missing this, and I felt it, missing this, feeling like, okay, I gotta catch something that's gonna work this well, right? And then that's gonna push you to take something that's lower quality or for make you lower your standards. Okay, so just be mindful of that. We are officially now into the start of earnings season. Okay, so things will pick up. Okay, so no reason to put it all on tomorrow or the next day to say, okay, this is the day where everything's gonna get going. We have a few weeks at least of earnings coming out, so that's going to be the challenge. Try not to get over eager to take the plays, and also if they're not there, to lower your standards and over trade. Okay, all right, so hope you did well today. Hope you've been doing well here the last week and a half, and so we'll see what earnings season brings us, and if the market, that volatility that we got today leads to a change in the market. Okay, so just an important daily chart, especially on the Qs here, to note with that big topping tail. Okay, all right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening.